Hello and welcome back to the channel for another Doctor Who Flux reaction / review / first thought / whatever this is called. Yes, so War of the Sontarans finished just a few minutes ago, and yeah, it was intense, I think it would be fair to say. But yeah, I had a really good time with that episode actually. I think it was really good fun, lots of stuff packed in, as I think we've come to expect from Flux now. Lots of different elements interacting and little bits carrying over from the first episode, other bits sort of spilling over into later in the series, into episode 3 and what have you. Yeah, but I really enjoyed that sort of cocktail of different elements, if you like. The way, early on in the episode, the Doctor was split up from Yaz and Dan as predicted, and how we had all those threads running in parallel. I mean, in terms of standout moments, Carvanista returning was one of those. Just didn't see that coming at all, but makes total sense and was very nice to see him again. Obviously, he wasn't in the cast list for this episode, a deliberate omission, the first one of the series, I think. So that was lovely to see. As well, the Lynx reference. Oh my goodness, that was just amazing. I went all fanboyish at that moment. It was just fantastic. I even did a tweet about it. Like, I never usually tweet during Doctor Who, but I had to do it for that moment. I had to sort of mark that moment in time because, yeah, it was just phenomenal to see him get name-checked all these years on. Wow, what a fantastic reference back to the very first Sontaran story, the Time Warrior. I'm assuming everybody knows that, but just in case you don't. Yeah, that was amazing, and just in general, I think it wouldn't be an overstatement to say that I think this is probably the best Sontaran story ever, I think, and that's not just hype speaking, because I think the way they were handled in this story, you got a bit of everything. You got a bit of the humour that sort of characterises them and taking the mick out of them and whatever, and your potato heads and your probic vent and whacking them across the head, but then also you got a real brutality that we haven't really seen in the new series before, and I guess we saw it a bit more in the classic series, but even so, this was that, like, dialed up to 11, the Sontarans sort of executing one of their own, executing the humans as well, obviously, and just all that sort of stuff. Yeah, they were really brutal. They did not hold back, these Sontarans. They really were built for war, and wanted to tell you about it. Yeah, just fantastic. I was so pleased with how the Sontarans were handled in this. I mean, it was pretty much what I expected. I had high hopes going into it. I think because, of all those years of Strax and all that sort of stuff, everybody was sort of hoping for a more serious take on the Sontarans, obviously keeping some of that humour there, because that is an essential characteristic of them. I think the Doctor says at one point that they're a bit stupid, you can take advantage of them, and so that sort of drives the story in a way as well, and so it's a useful sort of facet to keep in there. But nevertheless, making the Sontarans more brutal, making them take themselves more seriously, was such a welcome move. I loved it. I thought it was really, really great. And seeing them across different time periods as well was epic. Back in 78 we got the Invasion of Time, which wasn't really an invasion of time. This was a Sontaran invasion of time. It was Chris Chibnall sort of making good on that promise from all those years ago of a story that doesn't quite live up to its title in that regard. I think people would agree with me on that score. So it was just fantastic to see, a proper Sontaran invasion of time. Just seeing them do what they do best, really. Invading and having already invaded and executing and marching around and stomping. And their new theme as well from Seganak Lola I thought was amazing. Obviously we heard it first last week in that little cameo scene with the Ritz score and the Psychic Commander. And yeah, it was just fantastic to hear that again. And actually, on that similar theme actually, just what I loved about this story in particular, the way it's continuing on from episode 1, the way we've got this serialised structure now. What's really great, I think, is that a lot of the things that were set up in episode 1 are starting to make more sense, or just at least kind of contributing to this sense of familiarity for the viewer going into episode 2. So, you see the Sontarans again, you notice them, and it's like, oh yeah, I saw them episode 1. You hear their theme again, it's like, oh yeah, I know this, I'm getting into a sort of groove now, a rhythm, which is really nice, because it's not something we've got from the new series of Doctor Who really before, this sort of sense of interconnectivity, if that's the right word, between episodes and them sort of interacting with each other in that sort of way. And as I said near the start of this video, sort of things overlapping across from the first episode, other things being set up here that are clearly going to continue into episode 3. I just really enjoyed that, in terms of the music as well, hearing Dan's theme again and thinking, oh yeah, I know this, hearing Joseph Williamson's theme again and seeing him again and thinking, yeah, I know this, I get the drill. I don't know why he's here, but I know who he is, and sort of, you know, it's nice to see him again. It's just that little buzz, I guess, you get from seeing these things again, you know, from week to week, which is a real strength of the format, and obviously going forward that is going to be dialed up even further, so very much looking forward to that. So I think that just about does it really in terms of initial thoughts. Obviously there's more that I could go into here. I mean, I've barely mentioned Mary Seacole and the Crimean War and all that sort of stuff. For the record, I thought they did a fairly good job with her, all things considered. You know, yes, she wasn't the sort of centrepiece of this story, but she still got a good deal to do. She still sort of came out of it well and was presented and portrayed in a nice way, in a respectful way. So I enjoyed that and learning a bit about her as well. And, you know, it wasn't too much, it was just the sort of right amount, I think, that we got of her. I mean, just generally to end on, the whole balance between all these different elements I thought was handled really well, to be honest. You know, yeah, you could have focused on one of them a bit more perhaps, and then perhaps, you know, if this was a series 11 or 12 episode, that would have been the case. You know, you've just got a Sontaran episode or a Crimean War episode or whatever, without all the intercutting between different plot threads and elements and what have you. But I just really enjoyed that. I thought it worked really well in this episode. Really looking forward to seeing how it continues further into the series and seeing how the cliffhanger's resolved, and just, oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff going down. And I mean, Swarm and Azure, well, what is the deal with them, and Passenger as well? We still don't really know what Passenger is doing there and what purpose he serves or it serves or whatever Passenger is. I am so excited for next week. I think it looks amazing from what we've seen so far and from what we know about it. It looks to be a sort of trippy episode, slightly a bit unusual, a bit abstract, a bit out there. Yeah, I can't wait to go and watch that next time trailer again once I've finished recording and editing this, because it looks amazing. I think there was a sneaky little glimpse of a Weeping Angel right at the end of the trailer, so that's interesting how that's going to sort of bleed over into episode 4. This is what I mean, you see, the different bits and pieces that aren't just restricted to one episode that sort of link across. It's just really nice to see that being done, and it is a sort of budget conscious decision, I guess, in one sense, because you're reusing different costumes and props and sets and whatever, but it works really well, and it's just really refreshing, a different take on Doctor Who. But anyway, I've rambled on long enough there. Please do let me know what you thought of War of the Sontarans and how you think Flux is progressing in the comment section below. I would love to hear what you think, because as always, I've not really checked Twitter yet to see what the consensus is. I think it's fairly positive once again, but yeah, looking forward to checking that out in more detail and hearing what you've got to say. Please do like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't already for more Doctor Who Flux related content, including an Everything You Missed Easter egg video about this story coming in a day or two. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and Sontar Ha.